So I'll stop there and just introduce the distinguished Congressman, Senator Reed. Thank you.
Thank you, Cedric. Well, thank you very much, Cedric. Gun violence is a stain on our nation. It's a problem across this country, and it's time to take action and to break this vicious cycle of violence. Addressing gun violence is a team effort, and the Nonviolence Institute here is at the forefront of that effort. So thank you, Cedric, for what you do and for everyone here, what you do each day. And I'm so grateful to my colleagues in the delegation for their leadership, Senator Whitehouse, Congressman Lanchman, Congressman Cicilline. I'm very proud to be part of our team. And I also appreciate the partnership with the governor and the mayor and what they're trying to do also. And the Attorney General is here, and he'll say a few words because he's on the front lines tackling gun violence every day, taking on gun traffickers, enforcing the law, and serving justice. And let me also recognize our police officials who are here, Superintendent Manning, Commissioner Parry, and Chief Plunkett. Thank you and all your colleagues for your bravery and devotion to duty. I also want to salute our activists all-stars who are here, the men and women who every day, each day, try to do their best to eliminate this tidal wave of violence. Linda Finn with the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence, and Ann Gertman from the Moms Demand Action. And we're going to hear from another amazing woman, that's Deanna Garlington, later in the speaking program. There are some who say that the solution of gun violence is more guns, and I say there's a much, much better way than that. It's not an easy way, it's not a simple way, but it's a better way forward. And here's the truth. There's no single legislative fix that can solve all our gun violence problems. But there are absolutely overdue steps that we can take and strategies that we can employ that will make a real and positive difference with respect to violence on the streets of Rhode Island and the nation. And I'll give you a few examples of what we can and I would believe what we must do. One, universal background checks. Let's make background checks applicable to every sale of a firearm, whether it's purchased at a store or a gun show. That's a modest but meaningful step that over 3/4 of Americans believe should be done. Two, crackdown on gun trafficking. For those who say, well, criminals don't go through background checks to get guns, that's true. And that is further evidence that federal action is warranted. Because states that have strong gun laws are harmed by states with weak gun laws. We need to shut down the so-called iron pipeline and regional pipelines of gun runners. Most of the guns used in crimes in Rhode Island pour in from other states, Maine, Georgia, North Carolina. So I'm teaming up with Senators Leahy, Durbin, and Collins and co-sponsoring the Stop the Illegal Trafficking in Arms Act. This bipartisan bill would combat straw purchasing of illegal firearms. It will do something most Americans assume is already being done. For the first time, it would make it an explicit federal crime to act as a straw purchaser of firearms, and would create penalties for anyone who knowingly transfers a firearm with reasonable cause to believe it will be used in a drug crime, crime of violence, or act of terrorism. This is a common sense way to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous criminals and to keep their illicit firearms from flowing across state lines into Rhode Island. Three, pass the bipartisan red flag bill. If someone goes to law enforcement and says, my son has a problem and I think he could be violent and he has a weapon, a bill sponsored by myself and Marco Rubio gives law enforcement tools to go to a judge and block the individual from purchasing or possessing that firearm. It's an effort that's already been initiated in this state. And four, Congress needs to play a constructive role and better address some of the underlying economic and social ills that contribute to the epidemic of gun violence. We need to tackle poverty. We need to get at the root of the problem and invest in education and mentorship. We need to support programs like the ones right here that allow nonviolence outreach specialists to go out into the communities and engage these communities. Community policing is another part of the equation, but we also need violence interrupters, social programs, and intervention specialists that complement the critical role that law enforcement plays. Ultimately, we need to offer people and communities a better, brighter, healthier, and more prosperous future. It isn't easy, but it must be done. And I hope the Republican leaders in Washington will drop their blanket opposition to common sense legislation and start playing a more constructive role. We need also, at the federal government, to help local communities, because again, this isn't just a Rhode Island problem. And the ATF and the FBI should be able to share their gun tracking information with local authorities and researchers. And we're looking at ways to make that happen.